We are consistently taught to look for monumental confirmation, the cosmic sign, the dramatic breakdown, the sudden, undeniable miracle that proves our life has changed trajectory. We search the skies for the flashing neon arrow, expecting the universe to announce with great fanfare that we have finally chosen the right path. This expectation is the single greatest reason why we miss the most powerful moments of transformation we ever experience. The profound energetic shifts that redefine your life rarely arrive with thunder. They arrive with a stillness so quiet, your logical mind barely registers the moment. The true shift in reality is not an external event. It is an internal recalibration, a quantum decision that is executed in silence. It is often camouflaged by the mundane nature of the everyday, occurring during a quiet walk, a moment of deep contemplation, or even just as you drift off to sleep. Because the moment lacks drama, logic dismisses it, classifying it as just a thought or a fleeting mood. Yet, in that single, unnoticed instant, your entire energetic signature, your vibrational relationship to abundance, health, and purpose, snaps into a new alignment. This script is dedicated to unveiling the anatomy of the silent shift. We will explore why the mind actively sabotages the recognition of this internal event, how to bridge the inevitable gap between inner change and outer reality, and, critically, how to recognize the sovereign moment of transition while it is actually happening. You possess the power to deliberately initiate and witness these powerful turning points, but it requires radical presence and a willingness to trust the unseen forces of your own spirituality. Tell us your city in the comments below, letting us know where you are anchoring your new reality today, and stay with us until the very end to learn how to actively support your new powerful trajectory. We have been conditioned to believe that transformation must be loud. We associate major life shifts with crisis, celebratory milestones, or catastrophic failure, events that force us to react dramatically. This need for external validation is rooted in the ego's requirement for observable evidence. The ego must see the lightning bolt before it believes the landscape has changed. However, the most fundamental shifts occur at the level of energy and consciousness, realms where noise is actually detrimental to the process, requiring deep silence and neutrality to register. The universe operates efficiently, not dramatically. When you make a true internal decision that changes your frequency, the energetic landscape around you begins to instantaneously reconfigure itself. This repatterning process is seamless and invisible, akin to a silent software update running in the background of your existence. There is no need for external confirmation because the confirmation has already been delivered through the coherence of your internal choice. The external world will simply begin to mirror that new coherence over time. Think of the shift not as a collision, but as a subtle harmonic adjustment. If your former reality was tuned to a frequency of struggle or lack, the moment you decide to embody abundance, your internal receiver clicks to a higher channel. This click is so quiet, it is often mistaken for simple mental clarity or a sudden wave of calm. It does not carry the weight of a monumental historical event, yet it is exponentially more powerful than any external event could ever be, because it is the cause, not the effect. The biggest obstacle to recognizing this moment is our tendency to remain externally focused. We are perpetually scanning the horizon for signs instead of feeling the subtle alteration in our own energetic field. If you are committed to mastering the language of the subtle internal shift and welcoming powerful guidance into your life, please take a moment right now to subscribe to the channel and join our community dedicated to conscious co-creation. The profound lack of announcement surrounding a reality shift is often a protective mechanism. If the shift were loud and external, your skeptical mind would have ample time to second-guess, analyze, and ultimately reject the transition out of fear of the unknown. The quiet nature of the moment bypasses the analytical gatekeeper, embedding the new vibrational command deep within your subconscious and energetic structure before logic can interfere and halt the process. This process highlights a fundamental spiritual truth. The deepest truths reside in stillness. The dramatic event that eventually solidifies your new reality The unexpected job offer, the healing relationship, the surge of financial freedom is merely the result of the quiet shift you made weeks or months earlier. The universe doesn't use billboards for its most important messages. It uses the profound silence of internal certainty. The critical difference is that true reality shifts are felt as a fundamental change in your relationship to your current circumstances. Even if those circumstances haven't physically changed yet, you suddenly find yourself observing a problem with neutrality rather than reacting with panic. That neutrality is the energetic signature of the new reality taking hold. You have detached from the old trajectory without needing a formal notice of dismissal. This silent mechanism underscores your absolute sovereignty. You are not waiting for permission or external circumstances to change. You are deciding internally that a different frequency is your non-negotiable standard. Because this decision is entirely internal, it belongs solely to you and requires zero external confirmation, making it immutable and infinitely powerful. Therefore, understand that the lack of external drama is paradoxically the sign that the shift was deeply profound. It was a purely energetic transaction that only needed the confirmation of your focused intent, bypassing the need for physical theatrics. The true moment of shift is always preceded by an internal decision, but this is rarely the heroic shouted declaration we imagine. It is not usually an affirmation spoken into a mirror, nor is it a grand, detailed plan outlining the next decade. Instead, it is a subtle, visceral rejection of the energy of the past, coupled with an absolute, non-negotiable acceptance of the energy of the future. It is the moment you silently say no more of this, and yes to that higher potential, without needing evidence for the yes. This critical internal choice often occurs when you reach a point of deep saturation with the status quo, not frustration, but a profound quiet knowing that the current trajectory is no longer viable for your highest good. This moment transcends mental willpower. It is a spiritual allegiance. You are shifting your inner commitment from maintaining the old, comfortable yet painful reality to upholding the vibration of the unknown, abundant reality, purely on faith. The shift is powerful because it is a decision made in alignment with the core of your being, outside the interference of the ego's fear. The ego thrives on maintaining the predictable, even if the predictable is mediocre. The internal decision that shifts reality is the moment your higher self takes the wheel, quietly signaling to the universe, "My vibrational destination has changed." The resulting shift is the instantaneous energetic response to that new destination setting. This decision is often unrecognized because it lacks the adrenaline of conscious debate. It doesn't involve wrestling with pros and cons. It simply is. It is the quiet knowing that settles in your spirit, confirming that the struggle is over, because you have simply decided to cease participating in the frequency of struggle. This internal pivot fundamentally alters the lens through which you perceive reality and the energetic inputs you allow into your field. The intensity of this decision is not measured by volume, but by certainty. It must be an unflinching, absolute commitment, even if the path forward is completely obscured. The power lies in the internal recognition that your commitment to your highest self is more important than the current external evidence suggesting impossibility. This sovereignty is the lever that moves worlds. When this subtle decision is made, you activate a massive power shift within your personal energetic sphere. You immediately stop expending energy on justifying your current limitations and begin redirecting that powerful focus toward the manifestation of the desired state. This internal reallocation of resources is the instantaneous trigger for the reality shift. This is why many people who experience profound life changes often report that the change didn't start with action, but with a deep, private moment of surrender or acceptance. They weren't fighting the problem anymore. They had simply decided they belonged somewhere else. That acceptance is the internal decision that initiates the new trajectory in the subtle realms. The universe recognizes the frequency of internal commitment instantly. It doesn't need to hear the words. It feels the vibration of the non-negotiable choice. This is the moment your consciousness snaps into alignment with a parallel reality where your desired outcome is already established, initiating the physical steps required to bridge the gap. Therefore, the most potent shifts in your life will always stem from those silent, sovereign moments where you determine, in the sacred space of your own heart, that you are worthy of a greater expression of life and abundance, and you commit fully to that truth regardless of the immediate cost or comfort. The moment of the reality shift is inherently spiritual and non-linear, making it deeply unsettling for the logical, habitual mind. Your brain's primary function is survival, and survival is best achieved through pattern recognition and stability. A reality shift, by definition, introduces radical instability and uncertainty, even if the shift is positive. The mind, therefore, has an immediate knee-jerk defense mechanism: dismissal. When the quiet click of a new vibrational commitment occurs, the mind quickly searches its archives for a precedent. Since a truly sovereign, self-initiated shift has no parallel in the mind's history of predictable, linear experience, it flags the moment as anomalous and dangerous. It labels the deep inner knowing as irrational exuberance, a sudden spike of unfounded hope, or just a motivational impulse that will surely fade by morning. Habit is another massive barrier. If you have been living in a pattern of struggle for years, your neural pathways are deeply grooved for that experience. When the shift occurs, it proposes a radical new groove. The mind, relying on efficient, well-worn pathways, attempts to pull consciousness back to the known, comfortable loop of struggle, minimizing the significance of the shift so it doesn't have to expend massive energy carving a completely new route. This is why, moments after a profound inner realization, people often find themselves immediately pulled back into old worries or cynicism. The mind is trying to overwrite the spiritual data with logical, historical data. It seeks external confirmation, a sign, a bank statement, or a phone call, and when none immediately appears, the mind declares the shift invalid, effectively cancelling the energetic command you just issued. The power of the shift is often its subtlety, but this also means it requires active, conscious protection from the internal critic. Think about your own patterns. When was the last time you dismissed a powerful, quiet inner knowing because it didn't align with what your external circumstances suggested was possible? Share your experience in the comments below. Understanding this mechanism is the first step to overcoming it. Distraction acts as the mind's accomplice. Modern life is filled with external noise designed to pull focus away from the subtle internal landscape. A moment of true shift requires deep presence. If you immediately check your phone, scroll, social media, or become consumed by minor tasks right after the shift, you effectively dilute the energetic command, allowing the powerful realization to be washed away by low-grade mental clutter. The mind loves measurable progress. Since the reality shift is an energetic event and its physical results take time to crystallize, the gap in manifestation is interpreted by the mind as failure. This misinterpretation causes premature self-sabotage, leading you to revert to old coping mechanisms before the universe has had time to physically deliver the results of the initial choice. Ultimately, the logic-driven mind is suspicious of anything that suggests power resides entirely within. It prefers to place authority outside, in gurus, in governments, in luck, or in external events. The reality shift, which confirms your inherent co-creative power, is the most profound challenge to the ego's established worldview, necessitating its aggressive dismissal of the moment itself. The paradox here is that the mind tries to protect you by keeping you small and predictable. Recognizing that the critical, doubting internal voice is merely the survival mechanism operating rather than a genuine evaluation of your truth is the key to holding the frequency of the shift long enough for it to materialize. The successful navigation of a reality shift requires you to hold your internal truth as infinitely more real and powerful than the temporary physical manifestation of the past that your mind insists on referencing. One of the most testing phases of any true reality shift is the temporal delay between the instant you make the internal commitment and the eventual visible manifestation of the results. This is often referred to as the manifestation gap, and it is during this period that most people revert to their old frequency, effectively cancelling the shift they initiated. The delay is not random, nor is it cosmic punishment. It is a fundamental function of physics and energetic density. When you make the internal decision, the energetic shift, you are shifting your consciousness in the non-physical realm. To translate this pure energy into a material outcome, money, a relationship, or a change in physical health, the energy must slow down, condense, and solidify. This process takes time, much like the process of water vapor condensing into ice. The sheer inertia of the three-dimensional world resists instantaneous transformation. This gap serves a profound spiritual purpose. It tests your consistency and commitment to the new frequency. If the moment the shift occurred, your desired reality instantly appeared. You would never be required to integrate the new identity necessary to sustain that reality. The universe requires you to prove that you are not just capable of making the decision, but capable of being the person who lives from that decision, regardless of the temporary lack of external evidence. Patience, therefore, is not passive waiting. It is the active, consistent upholding of the new vibrational frequency in the face of contrary evidence. Every day during the gap you are asked, do you still believe? Do you still choose this new reality? If you waver, doubt, or obsessively scan for signs of abundance, you are sending conflicting signals that dilute the power of the initial shift, extending the gap unnecessarily. The delay is also necessary for the physical universe to rearrange itself. Consider the complexity of shifting a major career trajectory. This requires the movement of people, resources, and timing, all of which operate within the constraints of linear time. Your initial energetic command sets this massive, invisible restructuring into motion, and the physical world requires time to organize all the necessary coincidences and synchronicities. If you measure your progress by visible, external results during the gap, you are doomed to discouragement. Instead, measure your progress by your internal consistency. Are you reacting differently to old triggers? Are you maintaining a sense of peace and certainty about the outcome? Are you embodying the abundant energy of the desired reality? These internal markers are the true indicators that the shift is solidifying. The gap is the proving ground where the mind attempts to sabotage the heart's creation. The greatest spiritual practice during this phase is ruthless self-awareness concerning negative self-talk. Any voice that suggests the shift was foolish, unrealistic, or failed must be consciously replaced with the quiet, unwavering certainty that the internal commitment is already done and the physical reality is simply catching up. Understand that holding the frequency during the gap is the single most powerful act of co-creation. It is a moment of deep trust in the invisible architecture of the universe. It confirms your mastery over linear perception and solidifies your identity as a sovereign creator rather than a passive recipient of circumstances. The moment you find true peace within the gap, when you are genuinely content regardless of when the outcome arrives, is often the moment the manifestation accelerates dramatically. This detachment signals to the universe that you have mastered the lesson of patience and are ready to receive the physical results without them becoming another source of dependency. Because the reality shift is silent and subtle, recognizing it requires a commitment to increased awareness or presence and a radical shift in how we define evidence. You must train yourself to look away from the dramatic and toward the internal, nuanced changes that signal your vibrational change. The shift is most easily recognized not through a feeling of intense euphoria, but through a profound, sudden, and often neutral sense of certainty. The signature feeling of a genuine shift is often an unprovoked sense of expansion or relief. You might be engaged in a mundane task, washing dishes, driving, or staring out the window, when a topic that previously caused anxiety suddenly carries zero emotional weight. That feeling of neutrality toward a former trigger is the powerful, energetic evidence that you have successfully detached from the old trajectory. The shift has happened. Increased presence is essential because the shift exists entirely in the present moment, outside the memory of the past or the anxiety of the future. When you are fully present, observing your internal landscape without judgment, you are in the perfect state to register the subtle click of alignment. The shift usually registers as a sudden, undeniable clarity, a simple, quiet truth about a situation or yourself that you somehow never registered before. To anchor this recognition, focus on the energetic quality of the moment, not the mental content. Does the thought feel expansive, light, and certain? Or does it feel heavy, urgent, and complex? The shift is always accompanied by the former, an immediate sense that the heavy lifting is over because the internal choice has been made. This recognition requires you to trust your intuitive knowing over your logical mind, which will immediately attempt to rationalize or dismiss the certainty. If you have felt this quiet certainty before and are committed to noticing these moments going forward, please type the keyword awareness in the comment section below to affirm your intent to notice the subtle language of your spirit. Another key sign of the shift is the sudden, effortless release of an old limiting belief that you had been actively fighting for weeks or months. You might find yourself saying, "Oh, that's not true anymore," not because you convinced yourself logically, but because the energetic foundation for that belief has simply collapsed in your system. This quiet collapse is the true signal of the vibrational jump. Often, immediately following the shift, the universe delivers a minor, easily overlooked synchronicity. It's not the major outcome, but a small sign, a conversation overheard, a book title seen, or a message delivered that perfectly confirms the new internal trajectory. These small, perfectly timed confirmations are the universe whispering, "I received your command and I am already mobilizing resources." Recognizing the shift demands that you redefine power. Power is not the loud announcement of wealth or fame. Power is the quiet, instantaneous moment you withdraw your attention and energy from an old reality, committing it fully to a new one. This recognition must be celebrated, even if only silently, to reinforce the neural pathway associated with self-trust and self-initiation. Cultivating neutrality is crucial. If you attach overwhelming joy or dramatic expectation to the moment of shift, you create a heavy vibration that can actually destabilize the shift itself. Instead, observe the change with gentle acknowledgement. I've shifted. This calm, neutral acceptance anchors the new reality without energetic overload. Ultimately, the ability to recognize the moment of change is the measure of your spiritual maturity. It shows that you are no longer dependent on the drama of external events to confirm your truth, but are instead fully anchored in the undeniable, subtle language of your own inner energetic system. Making the internal decision and recognizing the shift are foundational, but they are only the beginning. The new reality, like a seed, needs careful nourishment to grow through the manifestation gap. Supporting the new trajectory requires diligent, consistent, and aligned action that reinforces the initial energetic command until it becomes fully materialized in the physical world. This is where active co-creation replaces passive wishing. The primary way to support the shift is through ruthless consistency in vibrational maintenance. You must treat the initial internal decision as a non-negotiable contract with the universe. This means deliberately choosing thoughts, conversations, and environmental inputs that match the frequency of the new reality. If your shift was towards abundance, you cannot spend your day focusing on financial fear without pulling the trajectory backward. Aligned action is also critical. Once the decision is made, the universe will begin presenting synchronicities, small nudges, unexpected opportunities, or intuitive prompts. Supporting the trajectory means taking these inspired actions, even if they seem illogical to the old linear mind. You must step forward in faith, trusting that the internal shift has already cleared the path and that these actions are simply the physical steps required to walk across the gap. If you find this guidance useful in understanding the silent power of your internal shifts and are committed to maintaining your higher trajectory, we ask that you pause for a moment and hit the like button on this video to send positive energy into the algorithm and help this message reach more conscious creators. Your engagement is vital to our collective energetic field. Energetic hygiene is the practice of protecting the new frequency. This involves minimizing exposure to people, news, or environments that vibrate at the level of your old reality. You are, for a time, exquisitely sensitive to discord. Daily practices like deep meditation, visualization of the established outcome, and gratitude journaling are not luxuries. They are crucial maintenance tools to reinforce the new vibration. Consistency means that when challenges inevitably arise during the manifestation gap, which the universe sends as vibrational tests, you must consciously and immediately choose the higher response. If a situation previously triggered fear and you manage to respond with peace, you have provided powerful confirmation to the universe that the shift is permanent. The reaction to the challenge is more important than the challenge itself. Be uncompromising about your focus. The new trajectory requires that you redirect your attention only toward evidence of progress, no matter how small. Attention is energy. Placing your attention on the lack or the persistence of the old problem is essentially watering the wrong garden. Focus instead on the feeling of having achieved the shift and the small signs of abundance that begin to appear. One powerful way to support the shift is through the practice of embodied imagination. Instead of waiting for the external world to change, you must internally practice being the person who already possesses the new reality. How does that person walk, speak, and make decisions? By embodying the new identity, you close the energetic loop and dramatically accelerate the physical manifestation. This sustained support creates a new momentum. The universe responds exponentially to focused, consistent energy. As you continue to reinforce the shift through alignment, the initial small decision becomes a self-fulfilling energetic prophecy, gathering speed and power until the gap closes completely and the outer reality snaps into perfect alignment with your internal truth. The greatest irony of conscious creation is that the moment of maximum power is the one we are most likely to miss. We spend our lives waiting for the external drama, the great event, the undeniable confirmation, when the entire architecture of the universe bends to the quiet, internal decision we make in a moment of sovereign stillness. Your reality shifts not when the world announces it, but when your spirit confirms it. The journey we have outlined is a cycle of recognition and reinforcement. Initiating the silent shift, protecting it from the mind's dismissal, enduring the manifestation gap with patience and actively supporting the new trajectory until the physical world finally catches up. Mastery in conscious creation is simply the mastery of these subtle, unseen internal dynamics. Your power is not in force but in frequency, not in noise, but in persistent, quiet commitment. The key to accessing your highest potential lies in cultivating the radical presence required to notice the quiet click of alignment. Be diligent in acknowledging those moments of absolute certainty, even when your circumstances suggest otherwise, for those moments are the invisible hinges upon which your entire life trajectory turns. The life of abundance you desire has already been established the moment you internally committed to it. We invite you to reflect deeply on this truth. What silent decision have you recently made that the mind quickly dismissed? Where are you failing to recognize the profound power of your own sovereign will? Leave your reflections in the comments below. If this script has shifted your perspective on the quiet nature of true change, ensure you subscribe now to continue exploring the subtle and powerful energetic truths that govern your reality.